Welcome to the Coach's Corner. Hi, I'm Frank Barbehenn, and I will be your discipleship coach for this week. To build leadership, we really need to be able to train our children to be proactive in engaging reality. Now, we're on sacred ground because all of us parents have different standards for safety and for risk-taking. But the bottom line is, whatever our standards are, we want to be mindful of training our children to engage reality. I would offer the frame that rather than viewing life as fun and everything's about happiness, and in previous videos we discussed the problem with the pursuit of happiness, that happiness is elusive, but rather frame life as an adventure. And the difference between fun and adventure is that adventure is the fear factor. Adventure has risk. And the difference between adventure and fun is the fear factor. And there's no way around taking some risk if we're going to engage reality. And in fact, I believe that a key difference between happiness and joy is that joy engages reality and deals with the tough side of reality, that joy is willing to take risk, that joy comes out of adventure. Happiness comes out of fun. Now, to give you just a few examples of what I mean that I think fall into the realm of sane parenting while engaging reality. I mentioned in an earlier video about parents and letting their children climb on rocks or not letting them climb on rocks. I have a grandson, and with the parents' permission, we have a bunch of rocks in the backyard, and I will let my grandson climb on the rocks. Now, I am mindful of the possibility of falling. So I, as Grampy, will stand near the rock pile, and he's now 5, but when he was 4, he'd like to go on the rock pile as well, and I will let him climb on the rocks. Now, climbing on the rocks, you can tell when you're looking at him that there's some tension there. There's the tension of placing his feet. You can tell that there's a little bit of threat because moments where he's not sure where to place his foot, or he's a little bit off balance, he's got to catch his balance, but he does it anyway. So he has the excitement, the adventure of climbing these rocks. He's training himself with handling his body, being coordinated, getting appropriate receptive cues for how to handle his body in relationship to this piece of reality, blah, blah, blah. And there was once or twice where I thought he might be losing his balance too far, and I reached my hand over and he grabbed it and helped him that way. Now, there is the obvious risk involved that he could fall, hit his head, and get a severe concusion, maybe even permanent damage to the brain falling on the rocks. We have the risk that he could fall on the rocks and hit a rock in just the right way with a jagged edge and put out an eye. Now, the parents and I are keenly aware of that risk, but we make the judgment call, right or wrong, that we're willing to allow him to make that risk. We're judging that it's within his competency to experiment, to stretch himself, while at the same time I'm standing nearby to try to offer assistance if I can. Now, obviously something can happen so fast that you can't grab it in time. But do you just protect a child from all the rock piles in life? Another personal example is when I was growing up, when I was 14, 15, 16, I had an older brother who 9 years older, and he and I would go deep woods hiking and camping, and we ran the risk of bears and moose, and in fact, we ran across bears. We stayed away from them. Fortunately, no bear ever attacked us. And we crossed paths with the moose, and he was only about 15, 20 feet away. There was no place to hide. I remember freezing up. So did my brother. We were just staring at the moose. The moose stared at us, and we were in a sweat tank wondering what was going to happen. Fortunately, he took off to the right. Some parents would say that that's foolish for, a teenager and then a young man, just for the two of us to be in the deep woods by ourselves with that kind of risk. We didn't have any guns or anything. We just had cameras. That's the only thing we were going to shoot with. I have had the privilege over the years of counseling some farm families in the Lehigh Valley here. And they let their children at a very young age drive the tractor. And, many parents, middle-class parents, would never dream of letting their kids do the lawn with a riding mower. There's a school, I think they have a number of schools now called the Tinkering School, and they will actually train children in using power tools to build projects. And so you can spend money for, a day, overnight, for a week there, and they will train the children in using tools to build projects as a group. There's a camp called Space Camp. And one of the things that one of the experiences they give the children is to put them in a multi-axial trainer, which puts them in this contraption where it spins them in various different directions. But they wisely keep the child centered so that the child's stomach doesn't get upset, so that the child doesn't feel nauseous, and they also do it in a way where the child does not get dizzy, but it also trains them in the experience of trying to get control of an out-of-control space capsule. The upshot of all of that is that it's up to us to decide how much risk we're going to allow our children to take. But that if we don't allow them to take some risk to engage reality, they will not be leaders, they will be passive, and they will be followers. And I would like to encourage us to step back and seriously consider, well, just how much risk, how much adventure, how much of engagement of reality are we willing to allow our children and to encourage our children to do in order to facilitate the development of their leadership? Okay, if you have any questions, blog me or email me at frank@peakperformancediscipleship.com. See you next week.